Before the first round is fired, the desert is already a weapon. It doesn't care about your armor or your nation. It just waits. And when the machines arrive, the sky turns ochre as a vast aerial shot descends through swirling smoke. This is the sound of 1,000 horsepower digesting the earth. The M1 Abrams doesn't just drive over the sand. It chews it, turning a sterile landscape into a scarred hell of grit, while through dust-caked binoculars, a commander watches smoke rise from a ridgeline where the last platoon died. The infantry moves like ghosts in Marpad, spread out and silent across a featureless dune field, the wind screaming in their ears, but the loudest silence is inside their heads, because every dune could hide a machine gun. Then, the physics of violence. AT, 90 round moving faster than sound meets composite armor, creating a star born for a millisecond. Sparks turn to molten rain, and the shockwave hits your chest before the sound hits your ears. On the ridge, howitzers are dug in like prehistoric beasts, men loading shells with sweat dripping off their chins, while inside a Bradley fighting vehicle, tracers zip past the viewport and the floor is slick with brass casings. Look closer at the graveyards from above. Turrets twisted off like bottle caps, hulls scorched black, the wind whistling through bore evacuators like a requiem. But the sky has teeth. Apaches come in waves with a deafening whump whump whump, hellfires hanging off their stub wings, and on the open plain, Abrams tanks conduct a battle run, firing on the move while dust trails a quarter-mile long. A soldier's white-knuckled hand grips a sand-encrusted M4 carbine as a tank burns in the blurred background, black smoke rising into a twilight sky. The whole war in one frame, hot metal and waiting. At blue hour in a desert city, cool shadows fill the alleys while warm fires glow in windows. A tank turret traversing slowly through a ruined intersection. From the eye of a drone, a highway choked with a retreating convoy shows the face of logistics and defeat, while at night, engineers work by torchlight, orange sparks dancing on their goggles as distant strobes flash on the horizon. The HIMARS breathes fire, its backblast kicking a perfect circle of sand into the air as rockets streak upward, white contrails arcing over the battlefield. Through a thermal imaging scope, the enemy becomes a ghost. White-hot bodies moving behind a ridge, crosshairs locking, the tech-noir glow making killing feel clinical. Under the stars, a nighttime resupply unfolds by red flashlight. Ammo crates passed hand-to-hand in silence. And then the wall comes. An apocalyptic sandstorm rolling in like a moving curtain of reddish-brown twilight, swallowing the sun while men seal their hatches against the howling wind. Two tanks circle a massive rock formation in a close-quarters knife fight, rounds ricocheting off ancient stone, ugly and desperate. Against the lee of a running tank, a medic treats a wounded soldier, his hands covered in blood while the turbine rumbles through the steel. The wounded man's eyes are open, and that small victory is the only one that counts. At sunset, the tanks become giants, long shadows stretching across the sand like ancient fingers, the heat shimmer making the war look epic for one brief minute before the M240 machine gun begins to hammer, brass casings piling up in the dust as muzzle flashes strobe. From above, a tank deploys a white smoke screen, creating abstract patterns of cloud on the desert floor to conceal its movement, while an M88 Hercules recovery vehicle tows a disabled tank under fire, tracers kicking up geysers of sand as the tow cable goes taut. Clang! The breach closes inside a cramped turret, the smell of cordite and sweat, and the commander shouts, "Fire!" The concussion rattling your teeth, the rhythm of the tank. Load, lays, fire. At dusk, a forward operating base glows like a fortress of HESCO barriers and watchtowers in a dark valley. But everyone knows there's a hole in the wire somewhere. In slow motion, a soldier throws a fragmentation grenade through an open enemy hatch, his face twisted not with rage, but with focus, the ugly intimacy of killing the men inside the steel. Light strike vehicles race across assault flat, dune buggies with machine guns throwing rooster tails of white dust, moving fast because they have no armor, only guts and a prayer. The Miklik detonates, sending geysers of sand 300 feet into the air as a line charge clears a safe lane through a minefield, the ground shaking like a train passing. A tank commander's weathered face, illuminated by the green glow of internal displays, gives a hand signal. 2 fingers forward, no words, just will. Ancient stone meets modern steel as tanks are positioned in archways built for horses, a jarring juxtaposition that reminds us we've been fighting over this ground for 3,000 years. A tank drives directly over a mud brick wall, the camera looking up as the massive tread passes overhead, debris raining down, unstoppable. From above, a hellish firestorm combines sand and oil fires into tornadoes of flame, the sky black and orange, the apocalypse no longer a metaphor but a weather report. Through a sniper's scope, the tank battle becomes a silent movie, crosshairs steady, a breath exhaled, a crack, one less gunner. Reactive armor tiles explode outward as an RPG impacts, deflecting the shaped charge jet while the tank rolls on with a loud crack and a sizzle. A medevac Black Hawk kicks up a brownout, soldiers with stretchers rushing into the rotor wash, because every second counts, every heartbeat. Infantry take cover behind a destroyed tank hull, peering around the scorched metal, rifles up, the dead tank giving life to the living. A bridge explodes just as the lead tank reaches its edge, the structure collapsing into a dry riverbed below, the column stopped, the long way around now much longer. Inside the turret, a gunner's hands rest on the grips as a targeting reticle locks, the commander's hand tapping his shoulder. Send it. From above at night, the battlefield looks like a sprawling, chaotic city of muzzle flashes and tracers and burning vehicles, beautiful violence. A soldier sprints through orange smoke, the billowing cloud wrapping around him like an artist's rendering of chaos. A tank crew, covered in grease, kneels in the sand to replace a damaged track section under the brutal sun. The camaraderie silent, the exhaustion loud, because this is how you win, one repair at a time. On a ridge, an enemy soldier silhouetted against the sky fires a shoulder-launched missile, the backblast kicking up dust as the projectile streaks down toward a tank in the valley below. 10 seconds to live. A Humvee bounces through a narrow canyon, walls of rock on both sides, rounds impacting the dirt as the driver floors it because escape is survival. A tank fords a muddy river, water splashing over its turret until it disappears briefly, then emerges on the other side streaming wet, still fighting. The business end of a main gun, the barrel scorched, heat waves shimmering, and in the reflection on the polished metal, an enemy tank explodes. The gun feels no remorse. An artillery battery fires simultaneously, muzzle flashes strobing as the entire area is engulfed in smoke. the shells arcing overhead with a sound like ripping canvas. At night, soldiers clear a dark village room by room, flashlights cutting the shadows, a tank waiting outside as a steel safety blanket. At sunset in a tank graveyard, a lone soldier walks among the twisted, burnt-out hulks, a small figure dwarfed by the scale of loss, the wind-blowing sand that will eventually bury these machines like ancient fossils. An M1 Abrams fires its main gun point-blank at the camera, the muzzle blast creating a perfect circle of sand expanding outward, the shockwave hitting, the shell a blur. Then, silence, just the ringing in your ears. On a ridgeline at sunset, a line of tanks side by side fires a coordinated volley, a wall of fire silhouetted against the dying light. A hand reaches out and touches the faded paint of a name on a turret, a friend, a ghost. The dust clears, and a single beam of sunlight breaks through the clouds, illuminating the turret of a lone tank as it rolls forward, not because it wants to, but because that's what steel does. There is no glory in the grit, no romance in the recoil. Only the machine and the men inside it, fighting for the man on their left and the man on their right. And when the battle is over, the desert takes everything back. The sand does not remember, but the steel does.